Good evening, friends. Hello, how are you? To be with you this evening. My connection there was a little shaky at start. Welcome all. I hope you're having a great week. This is a special kind of time of year, isn't it? It's beautiful out. It's a spectacular day. Glorious blue skies and warm temperatures. We're in that transitional phase of the seasons, and it is just a spectacular gift to have a night like tonight. And it is a gift to be with you. So I'm grateful that you're all joining us. Matthew's here, Krista's here, the McCartys are here. This is awesome. We're tasting some red wine, which I think we're going to be shifting more into some reds as we head toward the cooler temperatures. Jan's with us, and Mary Jane's with us, and the Longworths are here. Oh, how cool. Great. We've got some fantastic people. The Burses are here. Hi, Jan. The Toppers are here. Hello, hello. How are you? Ooh, that smells good. This is exciting. Hey, Johnny, how are you? Good evening. Hello to the Sanders. And Kate, hi. It's wonderful to have you with us tonight, too. Candy's here. And Dana and Michael and Christine. Thank you for watching. We've got a beautiful night. Christine's with us, too. Hi, Christine. Susan, this is just awesome. I get to see you a couple times a week now doing these wine-based tastings. Dana's here. And Stephen, hello, sir. Karen's with you too. Oh, good. Yes, ho, Karen, Christine, or hi, actually. And Leslie's with us, and Kathy's with us. Curtis is watching. Oh, cool. Hi, with Renee. And Brian Patrick is watching as well. So we've got a great crew tonight, it looks like already. Some returning favorites, and hopefully some new folks are watching in as well. If you are, chime in and let us know you're with us. For those of you that might be new, we do this once a week on Thursdays at 7 o'clock, and this is a blind wine session where we enjoy a particular wine that my crew here at Field & Main Restaurant has selected to blind taste, a mystery wine taste. And Matthew's saying Kathy's already blind tasted and identified every wine that would be served in November, and Tony hasn't even picked them yet. Maybe she's feeding Tony. That'd be interesting how that's happened. Or maybe they're on this kind of wavelength that she's aware of what's happening. But if you're brand new to this, we have a series of wines that we taste, a wine each week. And that wine is available here at Field & Main. It comes in a brown paper bag, so you can't tell what it is unless you peek, but most people, I think, are not peeking. And we also offer a little blind tasting wine sheet that is online or can be picked up at the time you pick up a wine. And this is a little grid that we've created. It's a hybrid of, hello Kimberly, hi Brian, a grid of some tasting notes in a format to kind of take you through, use a deductive process to kind of determine what's inside the glass when you don't know. And this is thanks to some of the Corner Master Sommelier's information, some of the WSET program, and some of the things that we just put together here in-house with our tasting team, with our wine team, to help us evaluate wines. I was having a conversation last night with some folks about wine, and one guy said, I just care if it's red and it's wet. I don't really care to know more about it. And I think that's a perfectly appropriate kind of perspective. Wine can oftentimes become too much, right? It can become so special and so precious that if you don't know all the details and who made it and where it came from and all about everything you can know about a varietal, then you can't appreciate it. And that's not the case at all. If you enjoy something that's in your glass, you don't need to know any more about it than you enjoy it. However, what I do think is the reality, and I think I've seen this by virtue of this group here, the more you do know, it can enhance your appreciation for a wine. And when you have that enhanced appreciation, you also increase your enjoyment. And I've heard that time and time again from a number of you saying, I wouldn't have had that wine on my own, I wouldn't have selected that wine on my own, and I really enjoyed it. So with that, let's go and dive into this one. Jan's already saying she knows she's going to like this one. And Tran, the PDF, I believe, is under the beverage side of things on the site. If you're having trouble finding it, you can always just shoot us an email at info and we'll send it to you. But I haven't looked recently to tell you exactly where it is, but I can do that later. So I don't have my computer in front of me at the moment as I'm doing this on my phone. So let's begin. What do you smell right off the bat? What do you see right off the bat? It's red. Is this a clear wine? Does it have sort of reddish hints to it? More purplish hints to it? Does it show a little garnet quality? Is it like a tawny-ish quality? Where do you place this? And what do we know from that color? Kind of wearing my wine-colored t-shirt tonight that celebrates our to-go operation, Take Me Home Tonight. So it's kind of like, is it like that? That color? It's kind of more in that reddish ruby place. It has maybe a tiny bit of tawny element, browning quality on the rim, just a bit, right? But not a lot, not advanced. This is not super old, I don't think, in that regard. So what do you know about something that's ruby and deeper kind of ruby colored, like this one? That's a varietal, right? You get certain indicators of color from varietals, from different skins, from different grapes. And so, for example, Pinot Noir and Gamay are usually on the lighter end of the spectrum, ruby, but lighter. And then you might head into something like Valpolicella, something like Sangiovese, something like Nebbiolo with some ruby elements. You might head up into even Merlot, for example, and then venture into Syrah with more darker colors, Petit Verdot, Tannat, Cabernet Sauvignon, things of that sort. So we were talking last week about a spectrum. Craig, you're noting a higher alcohol. So when you're swirling, you're getting a potential indication by way of the formation of the tiers and the legs that run from them, that you might have a little bit of alcohol here. Yes, it's definitely working its way slower down. So there's a viscosity to the wine and it's sheeting on the glass, and that viscosity indicates either a high alcohol or potentially some residual sugar, both, of course, once again, related to each other. The sugar is what makes the possibility of having a higher alcohol. And Beth, yeah, I look forward to meeting you as well. If you're coming in to dinner soon, that'd be great. With Chris, tremendous. We look forward to seeing you. Okay, so ruby in color, potential high alcohol, a deeper color, yeah, medium plus to deeper kind of intensity. What do you smell? Is it pronounced? Is it jumping right out of the glass, or is it something that is being a little coy and doesn't want to reveal itself too quickly, and we have to do a little work for it? Mark, thanks for watching this evening. Who's chiming in on what you're smelling? There's a medium plus intensity, thanks to what Susan's saying, some currant, strawberry, pepper, wood, smoke, blackberry, earth. That's fantastic. That's great. Full listing. So currant, strawberry, some red elements, right? Pepper and wood, a tiny bit of smoke, maybe a little bit of blackberry and some earth. Jan, you're picking up some smoke and some wood too. Cool. With that color profile, we start to think about certain varietals maybe. Something smoky could be a Rhone blend, could be Syrah based. It could have perhaps an Italian varietal, right? Possibly. These are just initial conclusions. These are initial ideas to start to formulate the profile of the wine in your mind. And we start to work our way through and evaluate the wine. And as we do that, we can start to either confirm or reject the initial conclusions. Stephen, you're picking up tobacco, earth. That's awesome. Swanbergs are finally here. You're not late at all. We're just getting started. And Isabel, thank you for joining us too. It's great to have you as always. I'm getting a little bit of, maybe a tiny bit of volatile acidity. There's a sort of construction site element here for me, like a drywall powder, like when you're drywalling and you cut drywall, there's that out there. There's a little bit of paint. There's a little bit of paint thinner. That's just a hint in there for me, which is detracting a little bit from the aroma. I think this might be an otherwise more expressive wine, but for that particular reason, it might be muting a little bit of the aroma on my side. And that's moving into a little bit of like a confection fruit quality to it. It has sort of a candied Jolly Rancher cherry kind of aroma to me too. So Jan, you're picking up black fruit, and you got more of a black color on your appearance too, so that's interesting. Mine's more on the red side of things and looking a little bit redder as I'm looking at it. So I don't know if it's my lighting or if our wines are different. I hope that's not the case. Cool. So what else do you smell, guys? Anything earthen? Some of that smoke element, some of that earthy element was noted from folks. And anything woody, right? So we did fruit, earth, and how about wood? Do you get any spice? Are you getting any elements of, say, cedar? Any kind of vanilla note? Any dill, something along those lines? What do you smell? Craig, you're saying you're remodeling the basement with this one. Yeah, I don't know if that means you're smelling the remodeling quality in this wine or you're actually drinking this while remodeling your basement. Either way, impressive. Thank you. Let's change it a little bit. I'm getting more and more of that earthy element. Black licorice, mushroom. Steven's picking up a little bit of vanilla. Dill and strawberry. The power of suggestion. Here we go. Kate, thank you. So Candy's picking up a bit of spice and wood. Yeah. So let's taste this wine and begin then to verify or reject those initial kind of conclusions and see if the taste links up with the experience of the nose. So try the wine. Candy's asking oak, not cedar. So oak, in terms of oak aging profile on a wine, might often give you the aroma of cedar, not necessarily of aging in cedar. Cedar's not a wood that's used to age wine. But oddly enough, when you char oak and put that into a wine, sometimes a particular French oak can oftentimes result in a cedar-like profile, a nose, and an aroma that comes in the wine. It's definitely dry. Yeah, it's quite dry. Let's talk about that for a second as we're assessing the kind of taste quality of this wine, right? And as you're doing that, many of you I'm sure already do, we're swirling the glass a little bit to aerate the wine. And then oftentimes what I do first is I just take a sip and let it just sit in the mouth and kind of swallow it. And then the second sip, I let air into my mouth to just continue to expand the wine when it's in the mouth. Somebody's throwing out, sorry I missed the name, but Tempranillo is already thrown out, which is cool. But that back end element of this, the very dry quality, because the dryness of the wine is determined more on the end than anywhere else in the experience of the wine. And yeah, it is dry at the finish. There's a tannin quality here, and some of that tannin seems astringent. The tannins are smoothing out a little bit as it opens up, but the initial first taste of that tannin was pronounced, and it was at the finish, and it was drying a sensation. You kind of feel some of your gums tightening up and getting like cotton balls stuff there on the roof of my mouth, on the side of my tongue. There's a drying sensation. Some of that is here. There's a general astringency. Yeah, Todd, probably some French oak. Steven's saying it's smooth, it's dry, has medium tannin. Yeah, medium tannin I think is correct. But that tannin is a different kind of quality of tannin. There's some tannins that are long and silky, and there's some tannins that feel really choppy. There's some tannins that sit in sort of a chalky powder, kind of laden, but then they dissipate. There's some tannin that I think can be really aggressive and almost impenetrable, and oftentimes it's the case in youth. Kevin is jumping in saying he's trying to break 6 weeks of misses on the region and says it smells like Italy, so he's way out ahead right now. He's not going to hold back. He's going to go for it, which is great. I haven't done particularly well this past couple weeks. And last week I got I did what I tell you all the time not to do, which is to get tractor beamed, and I got in on the Field and Main White, and I wouldn't get off of it. So I'm not going to try to be as intractable with a particular wine tonight. I think, Jan, yeah, there's an interesting call here with Syrah. We had Tempranillo and Syrah. I think that's worthy of a thought for sure. In particular, sometimes that tannin that's on the back end there, do you get a little of that astringency? Like, have you ever chewed on a grape stem or even on the grape seed of a grape, especially a wine grape, but even a table grape sometimes? And there's that astringency that comes from that experience. And I think that astringency, hi Kathy, welcome. That astringency oftentimes in a wine like this is indication of perhaps some whole cluster fermentation. And what that means essentially is that when you have the cluster of grapes and you pick them, you bring them to the crush pad, and instead of taking those grapes off of the stems, off of the cluster, you press the whole cluster. And sometimes in pressing the whole cluster, what you end up getting is a little bit of that stem. And that stem quality can give you a little astringency. Oftentimes you'll get a little bit lighter expression of the wine as a result too. But yeah, Susan's noting medium plus intensity, currant, strawberry, smoke, cranberry, cooked blueberry, earth, mushroom. Susan, you're on fire tonight. It's great. Your descriptors are wonderful. And Hank's with us this evening. Hello, sir. Welcome. And the Shirleys are here. Jan, you opened yours an hour ago. Okay, well that helps too, because I just opened it and poured it. And an hour will certainly help to soften some of those tannins. That is an important piece of information, and also important generally for your own wine enjoyment. So if you taste a wine and you have the luxury of time and you think it's a little bit tannic, give it a moment. Give it a swirl. Give it a decant, and it will soften. That tannin does soften with oxygen. Yeah, it's starting to open up a lot more. That blueberry element that you just noted is wonderful, Susan. Some of that smoky qualities there. There is a higher alcohol, right? Anybody getting a burn at the back end of the palate? I think it's wearing the alcohol particularly well. So it's not, doesn't drink hot, but I think there is a higher alcohol on the nose. So what varietals are we considering? We're thinking about Syrah, Tempranillo. What else? Italian varietal. What varieties do you want to consider from Italy with this type of profile? Should we be talking about Sangiovese? Should we talk about Nebbiolo? Should we talk about like a Corvina blend from Valpolicella? Should we be talking about maybe Merlot from Italy? No alcohol burn at all, Johnny, I agree. I'm with you. Jan's picking up a little more caramel now. Yeah. Chris is saying maybe a Sangiovese blend. So Tuscan kind of Bulgari coast, perhaps Western Tuscany kind of Sangiovese blend with Merlot or Cabernet. That's an interesting call. I like the Syrah idea because the Syrah oftentimes is made with whole cluster. And yeah, there's a chance of blend, right? Chris is throwing out possibly on Merlot. We think it's too astringent for Syrah, Todd. I hear you there. I'm only thinking of that because of that kind of astringency. I think you can sometimes get that from Syrah and get some of the other notes that we had, smoke, some of that pepper element. Northern Italy is coming from Linda. And so I'm something like, what about like an Austrian wine that a Blaufränkisch, or even I don't think we'd be in Blauburgunder, the Pinot Noir, but I think Heidi's saying it sounds like a GSM blend. Yeah, there's some of that blue fruit, the blueberry, coming potentially from Grenache, and some of that dark fruit that's coming out with an hour of age for Jan, or an hour of opening, could be that Mourvedre element, and some Syrah with the smoky peppery element. Pepper is almost always a great indicator for a Syrah option. This is a little bit, that astringency is still lingering for me, and I got to get past or get through or get around that particular element. And Johnny's saying the woodiness that he's experiencing in this reminds him of some of the stuff he drank in Italy. And Johnny, what were you drinking in Italy? Where were you? So what does that mean? Yeah, Candy, I agree. Like when you finish drinking, right here, and right on the tip of your tongue, the tannin and the astringency of that tannin, the almost underripe quality of some of that tannin is hanging out right there. Jan's saying a medium texture. It sounds like, for most of us at least, the varieties we're throwing out, the thoughts we're throwing out, make this old world. So, anybody think this is new world? And if so, why? This is fun as we get more and more into this, because the reality is, like one of you just noted, that last 6 times you didn't get it right. More and more I'm not going to get these right because I don't know these wines at all. And it's neat as Tony and Julie begin to kind of delve into different spots and show us wines that we haven't experienced before. Maybe we've only experienced a few times, and so they become, these experiences become all the more educational, because it's not only the experience of blind tasting, but then the experience also of diving in to a new wine. Carmenere is a really cool call there. I'm sorry I missed who put that out there, so credit to whoever just said Carmenere. Carmenere can give you some of this astringency, almost some pyrazine element too, but the astringency is a nice call from Carmenere, which would put us in old world, which would put us probably in new world, in Argentina, for example, or maybe Chile. And Chris is saying, take it easy, tell them to take it easy on us. I've said it. I don't think they're taking my input on that anymore. Swanbergs have had it open for over an hour too, and they think it's a blend. Spices are coming out more right now for me. Some holiday baking spices, which I think is more an indication of that wood. This wine's opening up a touch more. What's the acidity like on this for you? So we've got medium weight, medium plus tannin with a bit of astringency. How about the acidity? We thought we had a potentially high alcohol. It drinks that way, or it smells that way rather. It doesn't necessarily drink with a high, particularly pronounced high alcohol. So where are we at with acidity? This is mostly an old world wine for most people, with perhaps a new world option in the way of Carmenere. Arva's throwing out Portugal. There's a possibility there, Arva. I don't know. So I would probably associate more of Portugal with kind of a darker, blacker fruit, and with that astringency that I'm picking up. That seems like an underripe element or a whole cluster element. That would be just maybe a stylistic choice made from somebody in Portugal. But generally speaking, I would get more amplitude, more ripeness. If you think back to when we had that Douro Red, for example, there was more of a raisiny character to the fruit. This is a little bit more fresh. Chris is noting a medium acidity, so is Suden. Yeah, there's a medium. I'm still salivating. There's almost a hint of medium plus acidity that's kind of commingled or intertwined with that tannic experience at the front of the mouth. It's going back to red fruit for me. The Swanbergs are throwing out Sangiovese. So Sangiovese would get some of that cherry element. The tannins are possible in that. The fruit here is definitely, for me, running kind of contrary to the tannic experience. It's ripe, a little more subtle. Yeah, it's not super bold, and the alcohol is there, but it is not drinking super hot. Well, Stephen, I could have just read your comments. That's perfect. The flavors are subtle, not too bold, and medium alcohol. So yes, I agree with you 100% there. Karen's with us. That's great. Hi, Karen. Chris is still leaning more Sangiovese blend, Merlot, something else I can't figure out. So I mean, like a nice kind of Bordeaux style blend with Sangiovese from Bulgari would give you potentially this. That would be a neat option. I thought my initial thoughts right off the bat were for sure kind of potentially Merlot. And I was venturing toward Merlot with maybe a Northern Italian kind of Veneto experience. Collio, Friuli, up in that particular realm of the world. I don't mind the idea of a Tuscan kind of element. Sangiovese will sometimes give you an orange cast. So if you look at this through the light, orange might be in the wine. And I'm picking up a little orange. If you look at the light, so as the light travels through onto your page, what's the color that reflects through onto the page? And it is a little orangish, a little bit reddish, a little bit orangish. So I like the idea of a Sangiovese. The cherry's coming out a little bit more right now. This is definitely changing quite a bit right now. Yep, 26 minutes in is when things change. 20 minutes in, usually it's fascinating that these wines do that. Jan's all for Merlot. Cabernet Sauvignon because of the cedar, but Sangiovese also, which is what we could possibly be seeing. Like we could see, if we're talking about a Bulgari blend, right, or a Western kind of Tuscan blend with Sangiovese, Merlot, Cabernet. We serve a wine here, for example, that's called Mongrana from the wine producer Quercibella, and it's stainless steel made with Merlot and Cabernet Sauvignon and Sangiovese. But a lot of these baby super Tuscans will have some Cabernet, Merlot, sometimes Syrah, and Sangiovese blended in. So Claudia is saying, Chad, is saying that 40 minutes of it being open and it's starting to speak now. And I agree, it's really starting to showcase quite a bit more. The muted quality before is coming out. Some of that initial basement construction smell or that volatile acidity element has blown off for me as I've swirled this. Kathy's asking, anybody pick up anything tomato related, which is common in some Sangiovese elements? And she didn't have the wine this week. Kathy, earlier before you joined, Matthew was noting that he thinks you probably already guessed all of the wines that Tony hasn't even picked out yet. So if you can guess this one without even having it in front of you, we're going to put you in a whole other class. Ooh, I'm getting a little black tea. And Jan's going back to Syrah. I like the Syrah call too. With the black pepper we had and the smokiness right off the bat, and some of that black tea element, some of the whole cluster potential and the fermentation to make this Syrah. I like that call too. It's fascinating wine. Wow. It is giving up a lot more. Let's go back to Carmenere too. So Syrah, Carmenere, and a Sangiovese blend is kind of where we were looking. Isabel's asking about Petit Syrah. Isabel, I think generally a little bit richer, definitely bolder, darker color, and more black fruit quality to it. I don't know, we potentially have some of this tannin here. I just get more plushness from Petit Syrah, some roundness. This is sitting a little bit more linear. It doesn't have the volume in the mouth. It is definitely a medium-bodied wine, but it's not necessarily one that has a super density to it. Because of that, it takes me a little bit away from Cabernet. There's all kinds of tannin now. And Sharon's with us. Okay, so what do you guys think? Where are we at? Carmenere can give you some of this astringency, but oftentimes a little bit more greenness and pyrazine quality. The fruit kind of fits in with Carmenere. So we could be in Chile and enjoying Carmenere with sort of an old world type expression, some higher acidity, maybe a higher elevation Carmenere. We could be in Italy with Sangiovese being an element here, and that Sangiovese perhaps blended. I don't think any one of us is necessarily thinking this is straight Sangiovese. We could be in, if it's Syrah, let's talk about Syrah. Stephen St. Nicole, his wife, is saying it's a Tuscan blend. I think that's a good guess. But if it's Syrah, let's just delve into Syrah for a second. So where do you find Syrah in the world? You find it in the Rhone Valley in particular, in the northern Rhone, in places like Hermitage, Creuse Hermitage, Saint-Joseph, Cornas. These are all villages, communes within the Rhone that specialize in productions of Syrah. And didn't we get a Carmenere blend already? Chris, I'm not even sure. We're over half a year in this. We've done 20 something plus, 26 I think plus of these, so it's pretty neat. Jan's ready to plant a flag in Syrah. Okay, so let's continue. The Rhone, you've got Shiraz from Australia. You've got Syrah grown as interesting anomalies kind of in Germany. You've got Syrahs grown in New Zealand. We have a beautiful Syrah on the list from New Zealand. We have Syrah, of course, grown in California. And so where else would you see Syrah, or where would you think the Syrah is? If I told you this was Syrah, where would we place it? If you just suspended the idea that it was Sangiovese or Carmenere, where would you place it and why? Let's play that exercise out for a minute. The Syrah has higher acidity, medium plus tannin, medium body, so it's probably not likely to be a Syrah from Paso Robles, right? So from the central coast of California, where you're gonna have a little bit more ripeness and heat. It's not gonna be like a Syrah from Napa, right? So you could probably rule out Syrah from the west coast of the United States. So that leaves us with Shiraz. And we've had a Shiraz before, and that Shiraz was super kind of blue, black fruit, pepper and smoke, very expressive. A little bit of that eucalyptus that we had there was kind of undeniably Shiraz and was not drinking like this. And so you could also look then maybe at a German Syrah, which, oh God, if Tony poured us a German Syrah, that would be something else. An Italian Syrah from Bulgari or Syrah blend with something could be part of this too. But back to where Todd is, and that is potentially France. So maybe we're drinking something like Creuse Hermitage, Syrah from France. That's kind of how I work my way through. All right, well, the profile of the wine says these things, and these places represent different opportunities for grapes to be expressed that way. And so I would put myself back into France probably with this. So if you're going Syrah, I probably would go that route. Carmenere, it could certainly be that, and it could be a Sangiovese blend. It could be other things too, but where do you plant your flags, folks? Let's put it down for the record. Yeah, Jeff saying from the Swanbergs are saying that the Sangiovese was something else. I think Tony picked this one, Jan. So Krista's saying Italy. Candy's saying Northern Italy. Or sorry, Kevin's saying Northern Italy. Remember his 6 strikeouts before you joined him. Also known as a really big vote of confidence for Kevin. Sangiovese, Merlot, French. Italy is where Chris is going to put it. Sangiovese blend for Jan. I'm going to go with the group tonight, I think. And certainly, I like the little cast of orange. I like some of the elements of cherry that we're picking up now from the Sangiovese quality. I like some of the wood elements that one might be sort of a French oak that would be on a blend from there. And Isabella's saying she's planting her flag in regret because she doesn't have the wine and it sounds delicious. Well, we have a wine. We have this wine, Isabel, if you'd like to have a bottle next time you're around. We can certainly provide you with one so you can try it. So yeah, let's do that. Let's say we saw a little tiny bit of rim variation, right? For coloring, but not a ton. So it hasn't turned brownish. So we're probably in the 2 to 5 year kind of range for this wine. Probably presently in the market as a newer release. So what if we said 2017, 2018, Super Tuscan blend. So French varietals and Sangiovese. That's kind of where I'm going to go. Yep. Let's see what we've got. Oh my gosh. Indeed it is. This is, I was wrong on the vintage, this is 2016, but this is Mongrana. So this is that producer I mentioned, Quercibella, Sangiovese, Merlot, and Cabernet. Let me see if it says back here for sure. Yep, 50% Sangiovese, 25% Merlot, and 25% Cabernet. Typically, this is made stainless. So some of that spice is interesting. Maybe they use a little bit of oak on this particular bottling. We love this wine, typically. Shows great year in and year out. It's 14% alcohol, so it does have a little bit of heat, but it wears it extremely well. This is a really great producer in Tuscany. They make a Chianti Classico that is wonderful. They make a wonderful, really unique white wine called Batar, which is named after Batar Montrachet, so the great French Burgundy, white Burgundy that's made from Chardonnay, although theirs is made from Pinot Blanc. It's aged in French oak for a period of time. It has a richness to it. It's a gorgeous wine. And then they make an actual upper tier Super Tuscan too that is really beautiful. They're biodynamic in focus, although biodynamic modulated. So they're vegans and they don't use any egg whites for fining or filtration, and they don't use the actual cow horns for the preparations of the 501c or the 501 preps that would use the cow horn. So they have animals all throughout the vineyards, and they have bees, and they have a really living space to propagate the health and the vitality of their vineyard, as well as the other organisms that live within that space. And so cool wines, really fun, and great value on this particular wine. So Isabel, you definitely got to pass through and pick this up. We have more of it. We've had this on the wine list since we began, and haven't never taken it off, because it's just been spectacular. So great producer, look for their other wines, enjoy it. Chris is asking what makes a Super Tuscan. Never understood that. So think about France for a second. In France, in the world of wine, they name their wines after a place. So there's a place. And you say Burgundy, and Burgundy means that you're in that particular region of France. And in Burgundy, there are 2 approved varietals to use. There's a couple more, there's Sauvignon Blanc and Gamay, but generally speaking, you're talking about Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, right? So when you see Burgundy on a label, it means Chardonnay or Pinot Noir. In Italy, the convention is place, so you can name something after a place, i.e. Chianti. Chianti is the region. You can name a wine after Chianti, and there are rules set forth that it's going to be mostly Sangiovese. You can have a little Canaiolo, Colorino. You can add up to 10% usually of other varieties into that production. There's rules for that for Chianti. In Italy, you can also name a wine after the grape from the place. So in Tuscany as well, you might see something like Brunello di Montalcino or Vino Nobile di Montepulciano. So those are places. Brunello being kind of the grape from Montalcino. So grape and place. You can name it whatever the heck you want to name it, and call it an IGT. Basically a geographically indeterminately a wine named not for geography, but named for a name. And so a proprietary name, like Mongrana, not a place, just a name that they've chosen. And in that category, a producer a long time ago in the 70s, Tignanello, created a wine that wasn't Chianti, because it wasn't per the specifications of Chianti. It wasn't allowed to be called Chianti because he used a little Cabernet and Merlot. And in fact, then began bottling solely Cabernet and Merlot. And you have some of the better wines in Bulgaria on the western coast being bottled with French varietals grown in Tuscany. And that's where the idea came from to elevate those wines. Because they were, IGT is sort of like a table wine, the wine started selling at high prices and were wonderfully well received, that the Italians were smart enough to say, and opportunistic enough to say, well, we need a new category, so we'll call them Super Tuscans. And the Super Tuscan category kind of emerged as a result. So you get wines that are not necessarily from Tuscan grapes, Sangiovese. You get other varietals blended in them, and it's usually that case where it's either 100% Merlot, a blend of Merlot, Cabernet, maybe some Syrah, and Sangiovese blended in, or any combination thereof. And so the Super Tuscan category exists by virtue of the Italian recognition that people like those wines and created a category around it. The French would have been like, nope, it's not that. You can't have that wine have any classification that's higher than just a basic vin de table or a table wine. The Italians made kind of an exception and found that the Super Tuscan focus is really special. And so now you have different designations within that too, but that's a quick primer on Super Tuscans. This is a cool wine. I hope you guys enjoy this wine. And it's opening up beautifully now. This is a fun wine. This is a great type of wine too that illustrates a lot about our program, where they make $100+ bottle of wine that's very special, but they also put the same care and thought into making the wine that's a little bit more affordable. Comes from some younger vines, some things that, some production methods that aren't as labor or cost intensive, like using a bunch of new wood or new oak. And so you get great wine for a better price from a really great producer who has thought and care and does a really great job of working with the fruit, no matter what price point the wine comes out at. And so this is a fun one, and I'm glad Tony put that in the mix tonight. It's great to be able to taste it and to talk about it with you. All right, folks, next week is the 15th, and Tony and I are sitting down together. Tony's on the hot seat, and I have picked a lovely one. I want to talk about it, but I'm not going to. You'll have to figure it out with us next week. Until then, I hope you have a wonderful one. We'll see you back here at 7 o'clock. Cheers, all.